Joining me now is Sky News contributor Kosha Gada. Kosha, great to see you. Thank you so much. Look, it's been a huge day, hasn't it? A very historic day, not just for the United States, but for the whole world. There's a lot to get through. But firstly, I want to start on this because Donald Trump has signed pardons for around 1,500 participants in the January 6, 2021 riot at the US Capitol. Kosha, he was always going to do that. Are you surprised, though, that this was his first port of call?
This was definitely a key signature issue. Expectations among his base were very, very high. There was a little bit of a question mark. There were some reports coming out there that maybe he won't do all of them, maybe it won't be a blanket pardon, possibly. And there was a little bit of a civil war going on within his base about that. But he delivered to them. And I think on the heels of what Biden did today, which is the other big story of all those pardons preemptively to controversial figures and his family members, he just really paved the way for this. I think it's all 1,500. There's 6 people where he's commuted their sentences, and they might eventually result in a pardon. But all in, this is a full cleansing of what pretty much most of the country sees as an over-prosecution of Americans who've been in there for 4 years with a punishment that far outpaced the crimes committed.
Absolutely, and I think that there will be a lot of supporters celebrating this decision. But yeah, interesting, it was one of his first orders. But speaking of, Donald Trump has signed more than 200 executive orders on his first day. I've got to say, Kosha, he really wasted no time, because you look at the footage. He went from the inauguration to the actual celebrations themselves, and then suddenly he was ushered into an office where the cameras were on him as he was signing one executive order after another. What are some of the key items on that list?
And it's unlike anything I've ever seen, at least in the past several presidents. It's because 6 months leading up to this, he already had privately funded his transition team, and all of these ducks were in a row, ready to go legally and everything else on his desk. It spans the gamut, the pardons like we just talked about, hiring freezes for the federal government, forcing people to come back into work physically in the office 5 days a week post-COVID, declaring a national emergency at the border, which is going to unlock a whole host of other things that come out of that on his immigration issue, withdrawing from certain international agreements, withdrawing from the World Health Organization, which many people are angry about post-COVID, and there's another 15 that I'm not even mentioning.
No, that's fair enough. I do want to go through some of the more international ones soon, but it feels like he's really trying to clean up the public service with these executive orders. Why do you think that is a priority for Donald Trump?
That's one thing where with the swipe of a pen, he can do it, because that is where the executive branch has jurisdiction, that's in his purview, and a lot of it is just enforcing laws that are on the books or trying to shrink the bloat of government. All the Doge cutting and all of that will fall into that as well. Some of them, he's testing the limit of the law by design. For example, ending birthright citizenship, which I think no country, maybe one other country has this. Ending birthright citizenship for illegal aliens, for example. You come in illegally, you have a baby, you don't automatically get U.S. citizenship. That will be tested in the courts, and he knows that. So some are in that category, but a lot of the other ones, to your point, is just it falls in his purview. He's not wasting any time, and anything where he doesn't have to rely on Congress, doesn't have to rely on the judiciary, he's just going full speed.
He's absolutely going full speed. And what do you think that this says about the sort of president that he will be, that he's not mucking around? And a lot of them, he made promises before the election. He won on that mandate. He's getting straight down to business. What do you think the next 4 years will be like?
If today's any indication, and let's hope he doesn't lose steam, we really are going to see huge change and huge disruption. This was such a high contrast election in every which way, in terms of policy, in terms of substance, in terms of style, in terms of energy, in terms of stamina, all of it. And today is just finally the fruits of that labor of what was a very hard-fought campaign is coming to light. And if this is an indication of what's to come, it's not going to be anything like the first time, because he's much more organized. And it's also much more prepared. A lot of the attacks from the other side have fizzled out, so that it's hard for them to rerun those attacks. And you'd have to think that somebody who's been impeached, indicted, convicted, almost assassinated, is a changed human being, has nothing to lose, and he's just going to leave everything out on the field for the country.